All right. Hello, LinkedIn and YouTube. Thank you so much for joining us on this really interesting live session. I'm really looking forward to telling you all about this. I'm actually going to pull up a screen here and let you know that, we're going to go live with Julie Kay from Click. We've got Jonathan Stone and Corey Creamer from Mercy Ships, Andrew Mikaric from Differentiate Consulting, and Joe Warbington from VizLib. We're actually going to discuss how Mercy Ships is leading with data to change lives by partnering with Click, Differentiate Consulting, and VizLib. So this is a fairly new series, right? This is the Data Brilliant Unplugged series, and it's all about unpolished, engagement. It's about real conversations, about remarkable transformations with data. And we truly welcome all perspectives and all technologies. We really hope to shine a bright light on the wide range of customer stories and supporting partners, from the highly technical to the super inspirational. And one thing I'll note here is Click definitely welcomes feedback. So if you do have comments or suggestions for future conversations, I'm going to tag Jillian Farquhar from Click, who's going to be able to handle all of your feedback. All right. Those who are joining us, please let me know where you're tuning in from. I think it's always interesting to hear where people are joining from. I'm going to go ahead and go back on screen here. I'm going to go ahead and check, make sure the session is running well on LinkedIn. It looks like it. We've got some comments. We got Ben Taylor here. Hi. We got Leisha. Hey, Leisha. Matt Brown. All right. If you've got comments or questions about the session, feel free to jump in throughout the session, because we are going to be engaging with the audience the entire time. I'm actually going to bring in Julie Kay from Click. Hello, Julie.
Hi, Kate. Good morning.
Here. Yes, good morning, or I guess good evening, good afternoon, wherever they're tuning in from.
Yeah, exactly.
And where are you based again?
I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You're on my time zone. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So Julie, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you're doing at Click, and how you got involved with Mercy Ships?
Yeah, certainly. So my name is Julie Kay. I'm the executive director of Click.org. And actually, I've been at Click for quite some time. It's going on 12 years now. When over 8 years ago, actually kind of the management of Click decided that we'd launch a corporate responsibility platform. And inclusive of that, like many other companies, we have some great employee volunteering programs, fundraising programs, employee matching, and so forth. CSR is very important to many companies around the globe, and Click is really no different in that. What does make us unique is the way in which we actually leverage our software platform and donate those software capabilities to nonprofits around the world. Currently, we're supporting about 400 nonprofits around the globe, and Mercy Ships is obviously one of our very proud partners, and we're incredibly proud to support them and actually kind of witness firsthand the impact that they're having on lives throughout kind of Africa and around the world with their life-saving surgeries.
Absolutely. So Mercy Ship is essentially a floating hospital. Is that a good way to describe it?
That's exactly right. So think of a cruise ship, but it's a hospital that docks off of various countries around Africa. And actually, in advance of them kind of getting to port, they'll survey the country, they'll assess needs in the country of what types of services and what types of surgeries are needed. And then when they come and dock actually at a given country, then they are able to open up and perform these life-saving surgeries for the populations there.
Wow. Great. Mm-hmm. We actually got a comment here that says, "Good morning, Julie." I don't see the name here; it didn't get pulled in, but they appreciate all the support from Click, and they couldn't do what they do. Right. I'm assuming that's someone from Mercy Ships then.
Yeah, no, we're so proud of Mercy Ships. We started working with them actually with a few years ago in analyzing some data that they were kind of trying to get to understand around kind of their supporters. So the folks that support Mercy Ships and support their campaigns with actually their donations. Mercy Ships was trying to learn about those individuals. And so we very quickly actually began working with them to understand that data, develop some analytics around that data so that Mercy Ships could obviously very finely tune how they interacted with their supporters to make sure that they were actually being very transparent and very informative back to those supporters with regards to where their donations were going. It's incredibly important in the nonprofit sector to be very transparent. Donors are very generous, but they want to know that their money is actually having an impact. And I think Mercy Ships is a tremendous example of an organization that's done that very, very well. They keep constant contact with their donors, with their supporters around the globe, and they're very transparent about kind of the impact that they receive, and undoubtedly, obviously, the people that they serve with the surgeries on their ship receive from all of the great support that they get from their donors.
Absolutely. Yes, I think transparency in that space is extremely, extremely important. We've got
Exactly.
a quick comment here from Joyce saying, I use Click and I am our team's mentor in this program and I love it. So thanks for joining, Joyce, and thank you for everyone else who's joined. Julie, I know we're going to hear from you towards the end again when we come back for a full group panel, but I think at this time, I'd like to thank you for that great introduction. I am going to play a 2-minute video now, so I'm going to go ahead and start that, if that's okay.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Enjoy the video.
All right. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. All right. I'm going to go ahead and share the video. I absolutely encourage you to watch it. It's about 2 minutes. I think it's less than 2 minutes long. Absolutely very powerful, and it will tell you everything that Mercy Ships is doing. So I'm going to go ahead and play that in full screen now. And please let me know. I want to make sure that you can hear it clearly, so please let me know.
5 billion people on the face of the earth lack access to safe and effective surgery. 5 billion of our brothers and sisters and family around the world. That statement alone explains why Mercy Ships exists.
When I see people come and they have things that haven't been able to be treated and they receive the treatment that solves their problem, hope has become tangible. And when that happens, hope becomes believable for the future because they've actually seen real change. And then they'll have the courage to trust and believe that they can work for a better tomorrow.
Not only do we do the surgery, but when this ship sails, we will leave behind a whole cadre of people that are trained. The goal is to increase the level of healthcare delivery in the country so it's far stronger after we leave.
The ships can stand in the gap of what should be and what is. You're dealing with the immediate need, but you're also investing in the future of the country.
To open my eyes to these people who truly have no options and are helpless to do anything for their condition. These people who have nothing finally have a chance at having something done for them. People who have been told no their whole lives can finally be told yes. It's life-changing.
Thank you so much for watching that video and for sticking around. And I'm just gonna go ahead and get that out. At this point, I am gonna bring in Jonathan Stone and Corey Creamer from Mercy Ships. I truly, it's very difficult to watch that video, but it really shows the transformation, and I think that's just beautiful. So, Jonathan and Corey, thank you so much for joining. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Kate, for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a very powerful video we just watched. We had some very great comments come in from the audience. We've had Nikki saying it's a very humbling video. Plenty of comments about how this is the proper use of data and how data drives this kind of transformation. And we've got Joe actually says, "I'm not crying, you're crying." So, thank you so much for being here. I think before we get into the demos and the story of how your guys are using data to transform lives, let's get some quick introductions in here. So, Corey, if you'd like to go ahead and go first and tell people who you are and what you do with Mercy Ships.
Absolutely. My name's Corey Creamer, and I've been with Mercy Ships for 7 years. Yesterday, actually, was my anniversary. I am currently the technology product manager for the data services stack. I've been doing that for about 1.5 years now. So I began my journey with Mercy Ships as a business analyst and have kind of moved over into the data side of things about 1.5 years ago.
Thank you. And Jonathan?
Hi, my name is Jonathan Stone, and I'm a data engineer on Corey's team. One thing that I'm really passionate about is taking a huge amount of complexity and taking on the challenge of boiling that down into something understandable, approachable, some kind of insight that people that are trying to operate day to day in the organization, something they can take action on. So it's been really cool working with Mercy Ships. They have a very complex international operation, and it's been really, very exciting to try to move some things forward and help get their hands on analytics.
Absolutely, thank you. Corey, question for you. Can we discuss briefly the digital transformation journey that Mercy Ships has sailed over the past few years, and maybe discuss some of the challenges that you faced along that process?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been a journey. So back, as Julie alluded to, back in 2015, Julie actually helped us in Mercy Ships build our initial dashboards where we were trying to analyze donor data. At the time, our IT or IS department didn't have some of the skill sets that we needed to really continue to build upon that. And so we were fortunate enough to make a couple of great hires in 2016 and brought in and created a data services team, which really consisted of 2 people, a data engineer and a data services manager. And they were set out with kind of the charter to be innovative. Work with the departments and be innovative in what we do and try to help them advance the work that they're doing by looking at things a little differently. So we began going into marketing and helping to provide them with additional analytics on the donor base, as well as streamlining a lot of the processes that they were using. We had a situation that's probably pretty unique to Mercy Ships in that we had hundreds of spreadsheets. And I say that jokingly.
Right, that's very unique. I don't know anybody else.
Yeah, nobody likes their spreadsheets. So they had processes where they would massage data from one spreadsheet to the next and combine them, and it would just take them days and days to prepare data. And we were able to pull those into Qlik and take what used to take 3 or 4 days and have it take a couple of hours to do. They estimate we saved them about 2 FTEs just in that work. So not necessarily a traditional way of doing analytics with Qlik, but it really enabled their processes to work much faster. From there, we really began kind of working with one department at a time. We dug next into kind of our recruiting data to understand where are the people that want to volunteer with Mercy Ships, where are they coming from? And how successful are we in getting them to engage with us, and how responsive are we being to their needs? We worked next into kind of finance. So we did a lot of internal apps for IT in terms of understanding how we're responding to work requests. We use Jira to manage our work requests, for time entry and analyzing where we're spending our time, and then also for our budgeting process. We've done stuff additionally with programs, which are, for us, programs is kind of the output of what Mercy Ships does. It's the work that takes place in the hospital and the medical capacity building that takes place. So we desire to leave a country in better shape medically than we went into. We don't want them to be dependent on us.
Right.
And our goal has always been to enable power users within the departments to create their own apps. As opposed to always having to come to IS or IT to get something done. We try to build, a power user in each department that can go create their own stuff, and we've had some great successes. We actually had two departments work together to create an app that's used by all of our VPs, where they can go look at their financial data and understand where they are against their budget on a daily basis.
Wow.
Prior to that, they were only doing it monthly. They would get a spreadsheet every month, 15 days after the end of the month, to see how they were doing at the end of the previous month. So, and that was something that was done almost completely without any support from IS. We just helped them make sure that we had the right security in place.
Wow.
As far as challenges go, another unique situation to Mercy Ships is, some of our source systems had really bad data quality. We went through several situations where we'd have a system that would convert to another system that would convert to another system, and that ends up creating some poor data. So trying to clean that up within our load scripts, and then also go and actually clean up the data within the source system itself.
It's interesting you say that, because we literally just got a comment on data quality here from Alistair asking, it would be great to understand how you ensure working with quality data when you're working with so many data sources, spreadsheets in your case.
Yeah, so for us, it's a matter of making sure that the data is clean, making sure we understand who the owner of the data is, and empowering them, especially in the case of a spreadsheet, to make those sorts of changes. We created kind of a data inbox for different departments where they can dump spreadsheets that get pulled in.
Okay.
And so we really empower them to do that. And even I know in a lot of the apps that Jonathan builds, he'll create data checking sheets that will highlight areas of inconsistency in the data to empower the users to go correct those.
Mm-hmm.
Great question.
I really just have to share this from Russell Willis because it's hilarious. He said there's the trouble with spreadsheets. They have a habit of spreading. So
Yeah,
that's,
absolutely.
I can relate to that, Russell. Yeah, sorry, Corey, if I cut you off. I just wanted to share that.
And then the other thing was getting people to understand that analyzing data is different than reporting on data. That with an analytics tool, you can find a lot of answers, whereas a report tends to answer one or two questions for you. And so just trying to get some data literacy within Mercy Ships, and that's a journey we're still on. It's a journey that takes time, but we're getting a top-down approach, and we're getting really the executives being hungry for more data that's consistent and that's quality. And that's a great place to be when you start having the executives ask for it, as opposed to trying to be pushed up the chain. It's fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. If you can have the top-down approach, I think that's very effective. Before we go on to the next question, there is a question here from the audience. What tools do you use to handle such a large data set? I think you've touched on it already, but maybe just to reiterate.
Yeah, we tend to use Qlik to do almost all of that. You can do, it's an extremely powerful scripting tool that you can pull data in, and I've been using Qlik for a year and a half, 2 years, and it amazes me how many things are out there and what a great community forum they have where you can go post questions and get answers back to be helped along the way whenever you bump into a spot where you're not really sure what the next best move is.
Absolutely. So Corey, I know you mentioned that Jonathan has built some apps. So Jonathan, do you want to switch over and talk about some of the apps you've been able to build with the support of Qlik, Differentiate Consulting, and Vizlib?
Sure, I'd love to.
All right, let me know when you're ready for the screen share, if you want that to be up now or later.
Yes, please.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and put that in here. Over to you, sir. What are we looking at here?
So as was mentioned in the video and in some of what Corey said, our donors are extremely important to making the whole thing work. Another really mission critical area is our volunteer base. And one thing that our HR department has been working on is trying to figure out how we can improve the candidate experience and make sure that the people that, they're very generous to come and donate their time and talents and help be a part of the healthcare that Mercy Ships is delivering. But there's a lot of logistical challenges in making sure their experience is good and making sure that we're managing that whole talent pipeline well, that we're using people with the right skills. And also, as the organization makes improvements to processes, one important aspect is to be able to monitor how effective are those changes. And what's really great with Qlik is we can actually do that in real time. So what you're seeing here is an executive dashboard that's going to be published fairly soon that really focuses on applicant analytics. It has some of the key performance indicators for that area, such as the number of applications started, how many were submitted. Also, it breaks it out by the different sectors. And all of this is interactive on this dashboard. So a user can come in here and select the medical sector, and then they can just look at medical information and how that is trending, information about those medical positions. They can even drill into a specific type of position that's being applied for. So as an example, if they wanted to know how are we doing on application intake for ward nurses, this will allow them to drill directly into that data. They can also use these time filters. These are Vizlib calendar controls to really easily select custom time ranges. And another thing that we can do here, and this gets into incorporating some external data sets, using demographics information from the globe, we can look at statistics like, overall, how engaged are we with a particular country? Our medical capacity building programs focus a lot on improving not just the level of healthcare in the country, but also the state of medical talent in that country through training programs. So we can actually monitor, from which countries for a particular segment, which countries are we having the most engagement compared to the number of people that live there. And in addition to this, if they're drilling into this and they find something that's particularly interesting, like say they want to know more about dentists in this medical sector, and then they want to know, okay, for the applicants that are currently in the pipeline who haven't yet moved to the part of the process where they're serving on the ship, you can select these statuses, and then you can actually jump into the details and get the list of those applicants, all the information about what statuses have they moved in and when, who is currently assigned to managing those applications, and all sorts of other really interesting information. That's all in one place, very easy to access. And previously, this kind of information, it used to be quite laborious to deliver reports that would have to be run. You'd have to enter in all those parameters, but Qlik really streamlines a lot of that process and allows you to perform these very sophisticated types of queries.
Yeah, this is awesome, Jonathan. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask, how difficult is it to get the data updated? Is it in real time? Do you have to update it at the end of the day, or how does that work?
Currently, we're on a daily schedule. It is possible to increase it more than that. We don't have streaming analytics yet, but that's definitely something that I'm interested in looking into.
And we've got a couple of comments and questions from the audience. We've got one here from Shelly saying, can you identify gaps across different types of skills to see the areas you need more volunteers in?
Yes, absolutely. I don't have it in this app, but another app that's also in flight is a staff scheduling tool. And that forecasts over, say, the next year, exactly how many people in different positions we have scheduled. And we can compare that to the target levels that are set and identify the areas where we have the biggest gaps. And that information is crucial for our recruiting efforts, so that our HR departments and professionals around the world really know how to focus their efforts in order to fulfill weaknesses in that schedule.
Very cool.
One of the other things that we've been able to do with this also is if we recognize there's a gap in a particular area and we have several applicants that haven't submitted their application to volunteer, but they've started it, it allows the recruiting team to focus on those individuals to try and encourage them to complete the application and touch base with them so we can get very personal with the individuals that we're trying to get to apply.
That's great. Another question here we got from Alistair Moore. It's asking, how do you tackle data privacy and the ever-increasing data security regulations?
Jonathan, go ahead.
So that's a really great question. It's definitely, for most data practitioners, I'm sure it's on the top of everyone's mind, especially having GDPR and different international regulations. Being an international organization ourselves, we definitely have to really lead in that area. One thing that you can do is you can actually use Qlik's tagging system to tag fields as PII, and then you can leverage that in some of your security rules. But it's complicated to address some of those issues. Depending on the data source, it may not be clearly labeled, exactly which fields are PII, and you may not have perfect knowledge right away at how exactly the system has been used. For example, is there personal information in a comment field or some kind of free-form text area?
Yeah, that's true. The tagging will only take you so far, right? You really have to be aware of all the people.
And with Qlik, we're able to kind of organize our apps into what they call streams, and we can provide access to specific streams by department or by named individual. And then we could even get down into the app level and say, okay, we're only going to allow these certain individuals. So it's one of the things that we partner with the business unit that's requesting the app or building the app, and make sure that we understand what the security is, who can see it, who can't see it. We don't have a ton of apps that are wide open to everyone in the organization because there's so much that is private and potentially disastrous if it got out to anyone in the organization. We just from a Mercy Ships protecting their data, we try to make sure we do that well. We also have a director that's over data security, and so we work closely with him. And as we're trying to democratize our data and allow it to be consumed by people across the organization, we're still in the process of defining what the security rules are around the data.
Okay, thank you. Another question here from George Farrakhan. Is there a framework that you guys follow to make sure you're telling the correct story throughout the data sets?
Personally, I tend to borrow a lot of ideas from the Kimball Consulting Group. They put out some books on business intelligence with really great advice on going through the interview process and talking through. One thing that's really important is you have to understand throughout the whole process of building these, how is the data going to be used? And you need to talk to different audiences for that as well, because based on where you're at in the location, you may be interested in a different aspect of the same data set.
Yeah, and one of the things that we have to try to make sure we do is don't just answer the question that's being asked by the business unit. Jonathan, I kind of think of him as our BI Jedi. He does a fantastic job of interviewing the department and understanding and building data models that set them up for success in answering questions that they haven't even thought of yet. But it takes a holistic approach. You can't just go at a project with saying, okay, here's my one objective, and I'm going to answer this one question. We've got to look at the data set as a whole and understand who all might want to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, is it okay to remove the screen from the stream at this point?
Sure thing.
Okay, great. Another question I wanted to ask you guys is, you're on a beautiful mission, and some people might really want to get involved to see how they can either volunteer or donate. Where can they go to learn more or to see how they can actually get involved in your mission?
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend you go to mercyships.org/Qlik, Qlik. It's on the streamer there at the bottom, and that will get you hooked up with Mercy Ships and start to understand who we are, what we do, and you can use the resources there.
Wonderful. I've also added that link to the comments in case somebody just wants to go ahead and click it. And by the way, Jonathan, George loves your BI Jedi title. So
thank you.
All right, I think at this point I'm gonna go ahead and thank you guys for your time. I know I'm gonna bring you back into the session at the end for the Q&A panel, but at this point I'm gonna go ahead and bring in Andrew from Differentia Consulting, if that's okay.
Thanks, Kate.
All right,
Thank you, Kate.
Andrew, you're
Hi,
here.
Kate. Hi. Hello.
Hello, thank you for
Hello.
being here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for hosting the event as well.
Absolutely. Well,
Yep.
welcome to the show. And, for those who might not be familiar with you, can you just give people a little bit about yourself, a little intro of what you do at Differentia Consulting?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll try and keep this short because obviously the focus is on Mercy Ships. So I'm a service delivery manager for Differentia Consulting, based in Scotland, here in the UK. I've been using Click for quite a large number of years. It's my second year as a luminary, which is an awesome group of individuals. And Joe, that you're going to be meeting shortly, is a luminary as well. Prior to joining Differentia, I worked for a major US bank, building enterprise scale Click applications, but obviously this is for Mercy Ships. Differentia Consulting, we're a UK-based Click partner. We've got 3 offices in the UK. We expanded last year, which was great, and luckily, I always mention this as well, everybody's thoughts were with people affected by coronavirus, and we are quite fortunate that we are still running and delivering very much a BAU operation for our consultancy across lots of different services, which is really positive, because obviously some people are struggling in the current climate.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's me.
That's you. That's great. And can you just tell the audience, the story of how you guys got involved in working with Mercy Ships, and how exactly do you guys work together? Okay.
Yep. This is probably more interesting. So the partnership began last year, actually, before I joined Differentia. And Differentia have always worked in the CSR space. We've got a lot of not-for-profit customers, and we work with not just Mercy Ships but others as well. And via Julie and some Click management, we formed the relationship between the 3 parties, explored what we can do for Mercy Ships. Obviously Click use this model a lot with Click partners. They allow the partners to provide the services that they don't have the time and resources to do. And over time, obviously working with the guys from Mercy Ships, one of the big things I'd like to mention as well is Mercy Ships are our 500th customer. And I think the feedback from everybody in Differentia is everybody's so proud that Mercy Ships are that 500th customer, because it's such a monumental moment in our history, and to have these guys on board as that customers is just so special to us all, and we're really thankful for that. So on a day-to-day basis, again, without distracting from the topic today, we have a regular weekly workshop. Always meet Joe, that you're going to be meeting shortly, as well as Corey and Jonathan. We have a lot of good laughs. We talk about the visualizations. We do a lot of work on the visualizations. We do a lot of work in the background as well. One of the key things we're trying to do is allow Jonathan and Corey to specialize on their expertise and deliver the real value with the data and the visualizations for Mercy Ships, and let us handle the back end data, the versioning of software, the server infrastructure, all of these things, and let the guys just focus on what they need to do. And I think hopefully the evidence is clear based on the feedback that they've done. So obviously, yeah, it's an ongoing story. Hopefully many months and many years ahead for all of us. We get on really well with these weekly meetings. They are quite fun. And yeah, so again, I'd just like to summarize by thanking everybody on behalf of Differentia, not just for this event, but for allowing Mercy Ships to be focused as the first of this series, because it is special to us.
Absolutely. I love when a partnership can actually be a partnership that allows you to handle the back end, lets them focus on what they're good at, what they need to be focused on. I think that's just the ideal way to do things. We have a comment here from Ali Jones saying these tools are incredibly helpful for our Mercy Ships recruiting team. So we're getting some.
Yeah, positive comments like that make the difference, because that's why we're here.
Yes,
to share this story, because it is so special.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Andrew, thank you so much for hopping on. I know we're going to bring you back in for the panel. Actually, another comment here for you saying that I echo that Andrew McCorrick is, we're very grateful to be working with Mercy Ships and to be a small part of the fantastic work that they do.
Okay, so thank you.
More thank yous for you. All right, we will bring you in shortly. I'm actually going to go ahead and bring Joe in from VizLib, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. Yep.
All right.
Hello,
Thank you.
Joe.
Hey, Kate.
Joe Warbington. Hello.
Thanks
How's it
for
going?
having us. How are you doing? This is
Absolutely. Yeah.
pretty fun, actually. I like it a
I
lot.
told you this is going to be fun. LinkedIn Live is always fun.
And my son is peeking around. He loved the video too, and I thank you for kind of putting me towards the end so I could kind of clear up a little bit of those tears. We've been a big fan of Mercy Ships for a long time, and the history there goes back to as Andrew said, I've been really happy to work with them in the last few months to work on their applications, to share some stories of what I've seen across other nonprofits and especially the healthcare systems we've worked with. And Julie knows too, we'll probably touch on this, but she's really the reason why I'm even here today working with Mercy and working with Click, because I was one of those very fortunate employees at Click to go visit the ship.
Oh, wow.
In Madagascar. I took a CSR service learning trip. I got to see what they were doing in country and actually see how a hospital can run on a massive freighter. It's an enormous vessel, and having seen many hospitals over the years because I was a healthcare guy, just to see the experience, the operations. I have all these photos that just came up in my kind of Facebook profile of 5 years ago. I was on the ship. And so it's just bringing back all these really great memories of working with the organization, and so happy to continue doing so years later.
Wow, that's amazing. So I've been to hospitals, obviously, and I've been on cruise ships, but I truly can't imagine those two together. I mean, can you just describe your experience briefly since you've actually been on that ship?
Now you're walking through, and it still is a vessel that is like a shipping kind of warehouse type of ship, but they've converted into a hospital. And so instead of patient doors, they have little portholes that you can look through. So I was peering into the surgery room and the pediatric ward. And it's not just the hospital. People actually live on the ship as well. You have to think about, they're also basically a hotel and a hospitality and a hospital caring for patients and housing staff. And so there's actually little schools that we visited. There's teachers on board for the staff that live there, year round. And the surgery wards were really interesting because you don't really think about it until you're on a ship that's slightly moving in the ocean. It's docked on the coast, but it is moving. So you can't have a patient's bed rolling around in the room. So everything is, secured to the ground, secured to the ceilings. All of the instrumentation have special setups so that they don't just go, spilling off the edge of the tray. Yeah. And just the care and attention they put into this to deliver free of charge care to tens of thousands of people. It was just incredibly moving to just see that in person, and just help out just a little bit with what they're doing.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We've got a comment here from Chrissy saying that the videos and the patient stories are just incredibly powerful testimony to what Mercy Ships is doing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. They put out some great things, and follow them on LinkedIn and Twitter and Instagram, and it's really easy to get behind their mission and see what they're up to. It's pretty incredible.
Yes, absolutely. I watched a couple of other videos, and it is just so powerful. We didn't really touch on VizLib. If you could just spend a minute telling me what do you do at VizLib, I'd love to share that with the audience as well.
Yeah, right after I was at Click, I met VizLib a few years in, and I've joined them to be a technology partner for Click. So we help supercharge the visualizations and the user interface and different capabilities inside of Click. So a little bit of like what Jonathan shared allows them to do additional things and create workflows and have some different visualizations that are very custom to Mercy Ships. And when you think about like all of the work they put into the experience on the ship and for their patients, we want to bring that to the analytics too. So we're helping to brand their applications. And then across the Mercy Ship staff, they're going to have, more adoption of the analytics because it's theirs. It has the Mercy Ship's logo in it. It's their colors. It's the look and feel. And in a lot of cases, it's highlighting the data in a way that's going to help them do their jobs better. And that means, caring for more patients, faster.
Absolutely. I love working with data, and I think most of the individuals that have joined the LinkedIn Live session and the YouTube session or watching the recording, are truly passionate about data, but when you're actually able to use data to change lives, I think that combination is just so powerful.
Absolutely.
Nikki says, very animated and enlightening description of being on board a Mercy ship. So thanks for sharing that. Let's see, we got Tarek. Joe, you're very lucky to be there. They're doing a fantastic job by helping the unfortunate. And then I love this comment here from Sasha saying that it's so great to see the passion and drive, not only in the employees of Mercy Ships, but the partners that work with them. So truly a fantastic cause.
Yeah, I would. One last thing I want to echo is like the ship is obviously incredible and the mission is great, but everybody I've ever talked to at Mercy is just such a warm, loving person. And so as soon as we started working with Corey and working with Jonathan, it was like we were part of the team. And so the weekly meetings that we have, we don't dread them at all. I think Jonathan thinks he might overwhelm us with questions, but we have a really good time on them. And so it's it's a really good network that we have going there.
I love that. Corey and Jonathan, he does not dread them at all. That's true excitement there. A few other questions here for you, Joe. Petrie's asking, are your services available for any company or the ones with Click?
Yeah, we're a Click technology partner. So we generally want to start working with Click, and you can work with us in concert. Now, Julie will probably touch on this too, but the Click CSR program for charities and nonprofits, if that's where you're at, they do donate software, and we're happy to help with some of those things as well. Once you get a hold of Click, it's pretty fast. Within a month or so, you're off to the races, and then we can help take it to the next level. So please reach out, and we'd be happy to help and share examples of what you can do.
Perfect. All right, Joe, thank you so much. I think at this point, I'm going to bring everybody else to the panel. So you stay on. I'm going to go ahead and bring in Andrew and Corey and Jonathan and Julie. Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Hi.
Hey.
Hey.
All right, I think it's time for maybe a 15-minute Q&A. So if those who have tuned in have specific questions that you want anyone here to address, please feel free to put those questions or comments if you want to provide feedback in the LinkedIn Live comment section. I do want to get started though with a question about the current global pandemic and kind of what has been the impact to Mercy Ship. Not sure who this question is really addressed to, so whoever wants to go, just feel free to speak up.
That sounds like Julie's question.
Okay.
Okay. No, I'm just kidding. So
I can answer it, Corey. I talked to Chris about this.
Yeah. So with the pandemic, it caused us normally our field services run. We do what we call a field service with a country where it runs from about August until June, and that's the time period that we're ported in that country and providing surgery. Mm-hmm. And we had to leave the country early, so we had to come up with a plan to transition the patients that had surgery and were in recovery. How do we transition that out? Obviously, a hospital ship is not the right place to potentially risk bringing in an infectious disease that's highly contagious. So we're not a ship that's really equipped to go help in other countries for something like this, because our specialty is surgeries and in transforming lives through surgery. So it's not something where we were able to take the Africa Mercy and go help out a country experiencing COVID. We really had to we took the time and went to normally our shipyard is over the summer where we'll do repairs and upkeep on the ship, because the Africa Mercy, as Joe I believe alluded to, it used to be a rail ferry, and it was converted. So it's 30 or 40 years old. It requires some upkeep. So we actually went to Spain and went to a shipyard there and are beginning some of the work early. And we're really assessing, the programs team is assessing on a regular basis, how do we get back into the field and how do we do it in a way that's safe for the country and safe for our volunteers.
Yeah. And just to kind of add to that, what Corey said, that doesn't mean that Mercy Ships by any means is kind of shying away from these incredible challenges, obviously facing several countries around Africa. In fact, after the Ebola crisis, they did kind of have to leave because, again, as Corey stated, the ship's not prepared to deal with an infectious disease of that magnitude. But Corey, correct me if I'm wrong, your most recent port was actually Guinea. So just a few years after kind of Ebola was stopped from the countries of West Africa that it existed in greatly, Mercy ships went in and they served those most vulnerable people with the life-saving surgeries that they so desperately needed. And I think the same will be true once we actually have our arms around the coronavirus. The surgery needs are still there. And if anything, that's a time to really double down the support of Mercy ships and other organizations, because the need is still there and it's going to be even greater once we get through this pandemic.
And then one of the other things that we did was we donated a lot of the personal protective equipment that we had. We donated those to African countries as well, so that they could have a little bit more ability to protect themselves against the disease.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. We do have a follow-up question here from Petrie asking, what are your biggest data challenges during and after this crisis?
So the crisis hasn't really changed some of our data challenges because, as I mentioned, we're not really impacted in terms of the services that we offer, since it's not really COVID related. The biggest crisis that we're trying to figure out now is kind of what can we do, how can we be effective, but we still got areas where we're, the work that Jonathan's done on the recruiting that he kind of showed was really kind of round two of refining that data for recruiting. So the first model that we put in of the recruiting data had some inconsistencies, and so really what we're doing right now is trying to figure out. We're in the middle of building a data warehouse.
Yeah.
So that's an area that we're just getting off the ground. We brought in a new data integration tool, and then we've also got Qlik. So the data services team kind of has all of those areas, and we're trying to get a roadmap for cleaning up data, making sure that we've got really clean models that can be used across applications, and we can integrate those data. We're also moving towards kind of a pillared systems. And moving into some of the, we're in the middle of a Salesforce implementation. So some of our data sources are changing, which is a big impact to a data services team when your data source changes. So the challenges that we've got have to do with growing pains, which are good challenges to have.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. There's a data question here from Russell. So he asks, does Mercy ships also include any element of predictive analysis to the data analysis reporting regime? Who wants to take that one?
I can touch on this a little bit. So I would say overall, the big effort with Mercy ships in the recent past has just been trying to get good descriptive analytics across the entire organization. That alone is a huge undertaking, and for predictive analytics to be effective, you have to have reliable historical information to base that on. You want to make sure that your predictions are sound, that you're using predictive algorithms that are appropriate for the business problem and for the nature of the data that you're working with. But most importantly, you also need a good grasp on your data quality levels, so that you want to end up, you don't want, we could project all sorts of things today, but you want a projection that is actually useful in terms of being as accurate as possible. You want to make decisions that are really going to have an impact because you can rely on that prediction. So it's definitely something on the horizon. I'm very interested in one particular thing. The VizLib line chart actually has some predictive features, and I've been kind of experimenting a little bit with that on the side to see if that's some low-hanging fruit that we can latch onto and deliver value really fast. And I'm sure there's definitely going to be a lot more use cases and effort put into prediction in the future.
And then there is one area where we've done, I don't know if you call it predictive or just forecasting, but in our supply chain, we're finishing up the refinements to where we can take a look at past surgeries, or past surgery schedules. What were the items that were needed to perform those surgeries, and then look at our future surgery schedules to figure out, okay, what do we need to send to the ship? Because all of our stuff gets to the ship by container, and if you need it tomorrow, it's a very expensive process. So our planners have been taking a look at some of the historical information for surgeries and supplies, and then using that information, we're able to forecast out, based upon the surgery schedule, you're going to need 10 cases of gauze, and you're going to all these different things. So we're dipping our toes in the water, but we're by no means highly predictive in what we do.
Yeah, I can see a lot of money being saved if you get those materials there ahead of time, if you can predict that.
Mhm.
Joe, did you want to touch on the VisLib? Was it the line chart that Jonathan mentioned?
Yeah, there's a few things like we're adding some of those capabilities, do the forecasting inside of Qlik, and I think everybody knows, predictions and models kind of went out the window with coronavirus. Either, things went through the roof, the amount of stuff you needed, or just dropped off. So if we just take it without any kind of cleaning of that data or, looking at that particular range of months, we're going to look like we have this huge drop in February and March every single year going forward.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to account for that. And those are things like Jonathan and Corey and I been talking about in our design sessions, like how do we figure out what is the range of data we want to look at, but actually the forecasting for things like the applicants and maybe their particular things have stalled out could be related to coronavirus. So we do want to forecast that because maybe people are thinking, I don't want to go on the ship right now. They've just heard some things. So how do we see that information kind of tracking down? And if we don't change it right now, is it just going to drop off, too far? So, and it's going to help them bolster these things. So we can use it in the near term, but also in the longer term for planning out their surgeries and the materials, which is definitely something that we're adding to Qlik, is the ability to take all those variables and then give you a forecast of what you might need.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Joe. We have actually a lot of great questions coming in. So here's one from Anton. Did you also use gift information for segmentation so you get a view on where financial gifts are coming from? And does that work with forecasting so then we can, know where to expect gifts from?
Yes, we do. So one of the biggest areas, the first area that we really sunk a lot of time into was helping with the marketing team and the fundraising team to analyze those gifts. And we kind of segregate. We've got a team that focuses on major donors, a team that focuses on mid-level donors, and then a team that focuses just on some of our more day-to-day type donors. And so that marketing team actually has a data analyst on their own team that creates apps that goes and helps provide that sort of information and that feedback. I know for our major donors, we created a dashboard for them that really helps them understand where am I tracking, how am I doing, and where's this stuff coming from. So as far as the forecasting piece of that goes, we probably aren't doing a lot with forecasting on it at the moment. Keep in mind our journey is still fairly early on, and our data sets that we can go look at past historical information isn't really a long period of time. So the forecast may not be extremely accurate considering the amount of time that we have historical data that's reliable for.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Another question came here from Dominique. This is interesting. So you got the dashboard that shows that an impact and it needs management attention and decision. So what's next? Is it a screenshot or an email? I guess the question is, do you use any automation to get the dashboard in front of the right executives or decision makers to act on the information?
So I can pick up on this one. One thing that I'm very interested in delivering is to use this recruiting data model. One thing that it can do is, for example, identify stalled applications. So applicants that they've submitted their application, they still need to be reviewed and assigned internally on our end. Sometimes you have to keep in mind we work with over 1,000 volunteers every single year. You need people. It's a very large group of people that creates a lot of data. And so one really big value add from Qlik is to take that huge data set and in an automated way identify problems, such as if someone gets stuck somewhere in the process, and we can actually build a report out that shows all of the stalled applications, how long they've been in that particular status, and maybe who they're assigned to, or in some cases if they weren't assigned someone and they should be. And we can take that, and with imprinting, we can send that as a weekly report directly to leaders within the organization so they can take action.
And then I believe Qlik's also got some new alerting features that they've just come out with. Julie, if you wanted to touch on those, we haven't implemented them yet, but we're looking for use cases to implement them with.
Yeah, no, we can talk about that here right after this call. So Qlik alerting is now available and can actually kind of obviously work through the data that's been loaded into the Qlik engine and be set up to provide the, kind of those alerts. If there's supplies that's running low potentially, or some type of outlier is seen in the underlying data, then proper messaging kind of and routing could be set up actually right there in your Qlik environment. It's very powerful.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, any alerts you can get to the right people at the right time is just, it makes everything worthwhile, right? All the analysis and the visualization.
Right. Saves time. It saves time, right? Yeah.
Question here from Neil. So what are your future plans to engage your donors and volunteers by using Qlik technology?
So a lot of that, we actually empower the business to make those decisions, and we don't necessarily know, because the project process for them to create an app that lets them engage, we don't have to be involved in that. So sometimes we hear about them secondhand. While we'd like to partner with them, they're not completely reliant upon us to go create those engagements and those plans. The marketing team does a whole lot with segregating lists and creating mail outs based upon historical information that we have from individuals and their giving plans. So really the goal is to empower the business to be able to answer those questions themselves without having to come to IT and say, help me figure out how to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think that your organization is at the level of data literacy where you can actually make that happen effectively?
We're on that road. We're not there yet. Some departments are in much better shape than others, but the departments that share their wins with the other departments creates a little bit of excitement and a little bit of momentum, and that's kind of how we were able to spread from one department to the next and pull in their data. And in all honesty, our BI team is 3 people. It's Jonathan, myself, and Gwen, one of our other data engineers, and there's more requests out there than we can do. That's the other reason why we had to move to a model where we try to have specialized users in the business that can do their stuff.
Yes, a team of 3 is not very big for the mission that you guys are on.
Right.
Hopefully, you have plans to grow that team and enable you to do more.
Yeah, we got to make sure that we're being good stewards of our donors' funds, because we're completely donor funded. So it's a matter of making sure that we're spending them in the right areas. We are always very aware of how we're spending those dollars for the donor and trying to make the most of them that is at all possible go towards the end mission and provide the end user, the patient in the field that's getting a life-changing surgery, because that's what it's all about.
Yes, absolutely. We've got a comment here from Joyce, and she says, as a member of the MS fundraising team for major donors primarily, we love Qlik for segmentation and the dashboard that Corey created. So a little gratitude your way, guys, there. At this point, I think I'll stop with the questions from the audience and just ask one last question here is, and we've kind of touched on this earlier, but where can people go to learn more, and how do they get involved in helping you on your mission?
Corey? Well, I guess I'll start. So if there's anyone interested in kind of learning more about Qlik and our partners like Differentia and BizLib that also kind of are very supportive of this great work that's going on at Mercy Ships, if anyone wants to know more about kind of how to tap into us as a resource, please go to qlik.org. And there's a kind of contact us or a resources tab for nonprofits specifically, where you can find out about our programming, and then we can connect you with the right, obviously, program to support your organization. But then obviously what we're here to talk about today is Mercy Ships, right? And the great, incredible work that they do. So Corey, do you want to speak to kind of how best to reach out to Mercy Ships to look to support the organization or learn more?
Julie, I think his headset just went dead. So he messaged
my children walking behind me. Joe and I.
just let people know. So you can actually see the link in the stream there, mercyships.org/click, where you can go.
Okay.
And obviously donations are welcome and encouraged, but there's so much more that you can do with your time, that, volunteering and just learning how you can go and help out. At this point, I would like to just thank everybody for tuning in and listening to the live session, and especially a huge thank you for all of you guys, the guests here that have made this session happen. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.